Welcome back to another episode of the Infinite Jurisdiction Podcast. It's your host, Gonzalo. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back. If you're new to the channel, welcome. This is a podcast where I vlog about my law school experience. There's two goals to this podcast. One is a creative goal, just personally. It's a nice way to catalog this important time in my life. And secondly, hopefully that it provides some useful advice or tips to any current law students or prospective law students out there who are going through a similar stressful and yet meaningful part stressful but meaningful part in their life. So this podcast normally consists of 3 parts. The first part is a weekly update where I talk about what I'm doing. The second part is some legal tip, either legal tip or school tip, and it's mostly practical stuff there. And then in the third part, I talk about some broader philosophical, wider, bigger picture kind of question that I happen to be thinking about for the week. And so yeah, that's what this normally that's how this podcast normally goes. So let's jump right into it. This week, what's going on? How are things? Personally, a counselor advised me to join a lawyers basketball league as both just a nice way to play basketball, which she knows I enjoyed, and also a way to start networking with other lawyers or law students. And I absolutely love this. I'm very bad at networking. I might be making excuses. Maybe I'm covering up that I'm shy or not courageous enough to do that networking stuff, but to me, I think I try to shield it from. Sometimes I feel like it's not well intended, and that the networking is kind of it seems to me sometimes that it's unnecessary and at worst disingenuous, and I don't like starting relationships or going into relationships, I should say, with that kind of bad intention where I'm just looking at them to network. I will do so when the intention is out of genuine curiosity and I actually want to establish a relationship with this individual. But yeah, anyway, so the basketball league, dual opportunity to do something I love, which is play basketball, and also possibly network with lawyers or future lawyers. So that should be fun. Besides that, the week hasn't been super good. One of the principles of this podcast is for me to be as honest as I can, even if that means not looking very good, not seeming well on the podcast. And this week has been kind of hard. It's been hard. I think mostly it's just a decline in motivation, which is really not good at this time in the semester, because you need to start kind of increasing the motivation, because you need to really start kicking it into third gear to prepare for finals. So that's been a little tough this week. I'm trying to find sources of motivation. Sometimes you have to look at wherever it can be found, whether you have to think about the bigger picture, whether you have to think in the short term, like what right now do I enjoy doing it, that's school related and doing it, thinking about your family or whatever it is that's helpful to put the fuel back in getting you to do things. So, tough week. They will come, and I like to think about just a metaphor of like getting scar tissue. Like that's kind of what being in law school or anything that requires any degree of adversity, just going through the process, getting hurt, the wound opens up, eventually scabs over, and then it gets a scar tissue over it, and then that process will continue and continue until eventually the skin grows tough and very vivid and what's the word I'm looking for? Very vivid and guttural, not guttural. I can't think of the word, but it's a strong metaphor, and it's useful to me in times like this. Just to re-highlight a theme that I've been hammering home in other podcasts, which is just the process of failure, learning, trying again, and that process has not changed, and it won't. And you just have to get used to the process and not be afraid. It's a familiar thing, yeah, just getting through it. Law school wise, just finished midterms. I think I covered that last week. But ramping up for finals, getting outlines ready, getting practice exams lined up, and kind of narrowing one's focus in what you should be spending your time on. I like to do a few things, and so I like to do a few things on the side, and so those things should start to be weeded out from my schedule, so just so I have more time to do law school related stuff. Hi, Wina. And so yeah, that's it. Second part, law school advice. So this week, thinking a lot about preparedness as the tip, and just being in class and wanting to make the most out of any experience really in law school, whether it's lecture, office hours, going to a panel, talking with your supervising attorney at your externship, whatever it might be. Just be prepared as much as you can. And being prepared, I would normally say this again, like most of your strategy for law school, is going to be individualized it's going to be specific to you. So for me, I like to go in just once I've read the materials for class. Let's take lecture, for example. Once I've read materials for the class, I reread the materials 10 minutes before class, just so I'm familiar. It's also good just in case your professor likes to cold call people and you don't want to get exposed during the Socratic method. Wait, I'm making noise. Yeah, so you want to be, that's how I prepare for lecture. Start thinking about the concepts, look at the table of contents or the syllabus to see where you are in that class and try to contextualize what you're learning. Oftentimes, it's hard to take a big picture look at what you're doing. So say you're learning, you're in contracts and you're learning about mutual mistake. And so if you zoom out one time, you might say, okay, I'm learning about mutual mistake. Zoom in twice. Okay, I'm learning at excuses or justifications. Zoom out another one. You're talking about defenses toward breach of contract, step out when you're talking about contracts. And so having all that context really helps you as you zoom all the way in on whatever it is you're learning in lecture that day. Making sure you have your notes ready and your pencil or your laptop ready to take notes. If you're going to office hours, similar thing. Do you have questions? Do you have your notepad or pen or your laptop ready to take notes? And are you ready before a panel to have notes and questions? And also, aside from like the practical stuff of being ready to take notes or having questions prepared or knowing the materials before going into whatever it is also, it's a mental preparation where you're put aside all the other classes and the emails and your text messages, and you just try to narrowly focus your attention on this lecture, which is tough. I sit in class, and there are some classes where I just want to be on Twitter the entire time, and it's hard, I know, but you really have to fight the urge not to surf Amazon for the thing you want to buy. So it's tough, but preparation is key. And like all of these skills that you're learning in law school, it's all in the service of your future self, because these are skills that are going to be transferable to your practice as an attorney. You want to learn to be prepared now, so it's habit once you become a practicing attorney. This is a theme I hope is coming across throughout all of these podcasts. You want to have all the skills and tools in your toolkit and skills kit in law school, so that by the time you get to practice, you're not doing catch up or you're not having to start from scratch. They're already built in habits, which will help you in practice, and I think that's very important. So yeah, be prepared, do whatever it takes for you to get into that mental focus for that lecture, office hour, etc. And it should be a lot of help now and in the future. Sorry. Man, the caffeine. So, last but also least is the third part of the podcast where I talk about something big, and this kind of relates to the beginning of the podcast where I was talking about just the bad week I've been having because of the low motivation stuff and not feeling too good. And I'm sick. I'm sure you guys could hear that in my stuffy nose. But the big idea here is just sometimes you need to ask yourself why you want to become a lawyer. Actually, sometimes you should be asking yourself that all the time, or at least a lot of the times, certainly before you get into law school. Most counselors will hit you with this question pretty early on. But it's okay to have a rough reason for why you want to be a lawyer. I want to help people. Vague, ambiguous, not very specific, but that can be enough. For someone like me who likes to think really hard and specific about things, and am pretty hypercritical about myself, I was one of those law students who were coming into law school like, I don't know what kind of law I want to practice. I know I like to read, write, argue, and think about hard concepts and figure out puzzles, stuff like that. So I know I like to do that. I know lawyers do that in their day-to-day, but I don't know what I want to practice. I don't know where I want to go. And I also just want to help people make a difference. That was enough for me. That's my why. Some people know from birth, like, I want to be a public defender because I want to help minorities in my community, get the justice they deserve, etc., etc. I know a lot of these people who are just dead set on what it is they're doing and what they want to be. And that's great, but sometimes you falter. So you need to know your why, because when times do get tough, and they will demand, in proportion to the difficulty, a strength and conviction for why it is you're doing what you're doing. And it's okay if there's multiple reasons, and one shouldn't be judged, I think, on any of the reasons. I think I covered this in a previous podcast where I mentioned that students shouldn't be afraid or embarrassed to say that a motivating factor is money. Certainly people want money because they want nice cars and jewelry and prestige and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of people want money because they want to pay off their student loan debts quickly, and their undergraduate loans as well. Some people who are coming from a unprivileged background also want to help out their family as quickly as possible, who are struggling. So I point that out only to say you could have multiple reasons. And some days you might be in the library trembling with anxiety, and you'll just have to think about doing this for your mom or your parents, generally, or for your friend, or for your community, or for the money. Again, there's no judgments. It's what helps you get through it. It's so I can make a lasting contribution to justice. Whatever it is, you have to have these reasons ready, because in the face of adversity, you're going to want something to help you pull yourself through those tough times. So have those ready. Think of those. I'd be interested in thinking what you guys have in mind when you're thinking of the reasons why you want to be a lawyer, what they may be, and how helpful you think it is to dwell on them and in tough times. Yeah, so that's my quasi-philosophical topic of the week, and that's this podcast. I'll see you guys next week. You darn cat. I'll see you guys next week, and thanks for watching. Bye-bye.